Over the last 3 years, we've had Professor Kathy Sykes to speak to us during this slot. But this morning, we are delighted to welcome as our keynote speaker, science writer, presenter and author Jheni Osman. Jheni has a particular skill in being able to make tricky science topics understandable and entertaining to non-experts. A successful author, Jheni's books include 100 Ideas That Changed the World and her recently published title, The World's Great Wonders. She presents for BBC Points West and the BBC's YouTube science channel, Headsqueeze. Jheni is the former editor of the award-winning science and technology magazine BBC Focus, as well as having a string of honours and awards for her editorial and journalistic skills. Before her career in science, Jheni played tennis professionally, representing Great Britain on tour, playing at Wimbledon, and also modelling for Nike. Her love of wildlife and adventure developed while growing up in the Caribbean. She has travelled extensively, swum with whale sharks, and climbed to the summit of Europe's highest mountain, Mont Blanc, a lady of many skills, talents, and interests. So I'm sure you're like me, you're looking forward to her fast-paced presentation entitled Big Ideas. So please join me in giving Jheni a very warm welcome. Thanks, Jheni.
Well, thank you, Simon, and thanks so much, Gratnells, for having me, and also Science Learning Centre for hosting us all today. It's a real pleasure to be here with you all. You are the people that make science education happen in the lab, and I know that one of my friend's mums is a science technician, and I know how hard she works. I know how knowledgeable she is. So, you know, it's a real pleasure for me to stand here and be able to acknowledge and celebrate all of you. Sometimes you're the unsung heroes. People don't talk enough about you as science technicians, but you're very much the people who make it happen in the science lab. I know that at the heart of science are practicals, and practicals are the things that you guys manage to make happen. Sort of beavering away behind the scene. So I'm just delighted that we actually get a chance to celebrate you today. So before I embarrass you anymore and say what a wonderful bunch of people you are, I thought we could warm our brains up a bit by having a bit of a think about the nature of scientific discovery. Now, I think most of us know that discoveries aren't, they'd rarely come about by a man leaping out of the bath, running around naked, shouting Eureka, like Archimedes reportedly did. Though apparently that's a potentially made up or exaggerated myth. Discoveries are more often sort of melding of minds, collaborations, sharing of ideas, of things that are in the scientific public consciousness at the time. And I think Isaac Newton summed it up really well when he said, if I've seen further, it's only by standing on the shoulders of giants. Often inventions or discoveries are enabled by technological advancements. So a good example is the printing press, which enabled literature to be mass-produced. And you think that the effect that had on science for scientists and anyone involved in science to be able to share ideas globally and share results much more quickly. And then often scientific discovery comes down to sort of right time or right place. Like I said before, it's a moment when everyone's talking about something and it just someone comes up, or two people come up with the same concept, the same idea. But sometimes it's sheer chance, like when Alexander Fleming discovered penicillin, mistakenly left out Petri dishes, which went away for a few days, came back and found some mold growing, and that then led to the rise of antibiotics. Sometimes it's about sticking to your guns with an unpopular idea or thinking the unthinkable, such as Copernicus when he proposed that the Earth went around the sun as opposed to vice versa, which is, you know, quite a radical concept of the day. And indeed, one day, I often think, you know, our descendants may sort of look at us and laugh for believing a certain theory or taking for granted a particular physical law. sometimes, what's deemed a bit stupid now may actually come to be, part of the course in the future. And I always, I like to think of the Ig Nobel Prize winner. I don't know if you know what the Ig Nobel Prizes are. They're basically awards given out for people who come up with supposedly slightly stupid science, but actually, real science as well. And Andrew Geim from Manchester University, he got an Ig Nobel Prize, first of all, for levitating a frog using a field magnet. I don't know if you all remember that story about, 5-10 years ago. But then he's also the co-discoverer of graphene, the carbon one atom thick material that's being dubbed the miracle material because it's so strong and so low in weight. So, sometimes ideas, they come out of strange places, they come out of collaborations, and I actually wrote a book not that long ago. Simon mentioned it, called 100 Ideas That Changed the World, and basically I interviewed 100 different scientists, technologists, and entrepreneurs about what one thing they felt, one invention, theory, discovery had truly changed society. So Francis Collins, who was co-head of the Human Genome Project, he naturally said, finding out the structure of DNA, specifically our DNA. That discovery set the stage for the elucidation of the molecular basis of life and the transformation of medicine. James Dyson, I like this one. This is what made him a billionaire. Ideas are an inventor's lifeblood, but without a patent, an idea is unprotected and worth nothing. And I remember when I spoke to him, he actually said that I think he invented some tiny little valve. This was years and years ago. And then a competitor got hold of the concept or, developed the idea further. James didn't have the cash to get the IP for that little valve, and he basically lost out. And didn't make millions from that, but then went on to make millions from other things. So for him, the patent was really, really important. Transistor, Jimmy Wales, co-founder of Wikipedia, obviously computers and in turn the internet were enabled by that invention. And then finally, flush toilet. Now it sounds a bit funny, but actually the flush toilet it totally changed mass sanitation at that time. And I thought I'd just read you a small little bit about the flush toilet and some stuff I found out, which I find kind of interesting, about how the invention of the loo and mass sanitation cleaned up disease. So the world's most expensive toilet reportedly costs millions of dollars, but it's not made of bone china and encrusted with diamonds. No, it's on the International Space Station. And basically, jettison rocket parts and other space junk that orbit the Earth are a massive problem. So if a satellite, spacecraft, or space station gets hit by even a tiny fleck of paint, I'm sure you all know this, at 10 kilometers per second, it creates a 1 millimeter deep dent. So you wouldn't want a sort of donut-sized lump of excrement hurtling towards your head if you're out doing a spacewalk. So ejecting the contents of a toilet into space is, it's kind of hazardous and has to be so, hence the sheer cost of that toilet. So instead, they don't do that. They store it all, and to store it, obviously, takes up a fair amount of space on a not very big unit that's circling around up there. Now, I thought it was interesting that urine on the International Space Station is recycled into drinking water. I don't know how many of you knew that. This saves transporting water up to the ISS at a cost of $40,000 per gallon. Quite a saving. So you can kind of understand why a toilet is such an expensive, such an outlay for them. But the world's population, most of them don't own a toilet or even a bucket. I think it's 1 in 4. Today, 4 out of 10 people have no access to toilets of any kind and just defecate on the ground. And every minute, 4 children die from diarrhea, 90% of which is caused by exposure to untreated waste. So feces being a hotbed of disease, just 1 gram of feces can contain 10 million viruses and 1 million bacteria, not to mention the 1,000 parasite cysts and 100 worm eggs. And the Earth's population is ever increasing. We all know we're over the 7 billion mark. So set to reach 9 billion by 2045, apparently. And by the time I finish reading this sentence, 12 more people will be in the world than before. See, that's why mass sanitation is so crucial. It may seem like a funny invention, but actually it was voted by the British Medical Journal as the biggest medical breakthrough in the last 2 centuries. So that's what people thought were the biggest inventions during our time on Earth. And then I wrote a while back a feature on top 10 ideas that will change the world. Now, James Dyson went and picked 3D printing, which a number of us, well, I don't have a 3D printer at home, but you can get them for, I think, about 300 quid on the high street now if you want to print off an egg cup or something else in plastic at home. I thought it was interesting that at MIT, Massachusetts Institute of Technology, it's this sort of technology just being everywhere and embedded everywhere. What he thinks is going to be the idea that's going to change the world. Gene sequencing, James Watson said that. And then biomechatronics. This lady's works, so she's got quite a cool job actually. She works for BT as a futurologist. And so she says that will radically, and it already is, you think of some of the breakthroughs that are happening at the moment in that. And there are just a few others I liked. Marcus de Soto, a consciousometer, so we could tell, for coma patients and so on, we could tell whether there is a spark still in there. And finally, I'm hoping that this guy is right and that in a few years' time, he's things like little nanobots going around in your bloodstream, tidying up slightly ill cells, will be a thing that I can tap into. So I'd love to know what you all think was, one, the invention, the theory, the discovery that changed the world, but two, what you think is the future, what's going to radically, who would have thought that computers, when they were first the concept was kind of bandied around, who would have thought that all of us basically have a computer in our hand and on our phone that we use so much, some of us are glued to every day. I'm not going to put you on the spot here and ask you here, but we'll have a chat over lunch. So maybe have a think about what you think is the big idea that changed the world and will change the world. Anyway, thank you. Hopefully that warmed the brain cells up.